Dungeon Crawler Carl is by far the funniest book I've ever read. And if you know me, you know I've read a lot of books. Let's talk about it. Hey there everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and today we're talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 1. I've been very excited to do this video. I was non-stop chuckling when I read this book or listened to it. I went through the audio version, and I've got to say, Matt Dinniman is truly amazing. His writing style is hilarious. He packs this book with satire, he packs this book with cynicism, and he wraps it all up and gives it to you in a non-PC format, which is a bit of a breath of fresh air, if I say so myself. But enough of that, let's go ahead and talk shop about the book. When it comes to this series, the first book was initially published in September 2020, and since then there's been up to 6 books out. Initially published on Royal Road, it was a self-published book, which he later then turned into an Amazon Books deal. Sure. Now to give a brief synopsis on the book, without any spoilers, that'll be in the deep dive. Our main protagonist, Carl, finds himself outside of his apartment at around 2 in the morning one night in the middle of winter without pants. Yes, he is pantsless. He's rocking some women's Crocs that are 2 sizes too small and a leather jacket. So I don't think he's winning any fashion awards, if you know what I'm saying. He's out and about at that time because his girlfriend's cat had gotten out of the open window and got stuck in a tree. While he's attempting to get this cat into his arms without losing any toes in the meantime, a catastrophe happens. Suddenly, and without warning, all of the buildings around him and around the world crumble isn't the right word. I would say flatten into the earth would be my go-to description for this set of events. There's no holes left by these buildings. They just really flatten into nothing in Carl's eyes, other than the trees and some weird assortment of man-made objects like a bike rack, I'm pretty sure, are the only things that were not consumed. And that means that everyone in these buildings were also consumed. You got it right, they are dead as dead can be. And he is prompted by a system notification, letting him know that if he does not want to die of hypothermia, he has to go into the dungeons that have popped up all around the Earth's surface and try to fight to survive. Now, I don't want to give too much away for those of you who have not read it yet. I'll be talking spoilers for those of you who have in the later part of the video, but for right now, I'm going to go over a couple pros and just a con I had with the book in general. When it comes to the first pro, it's quite evident, it is hilarious. The situations that Carl finds himself in are completely outlandish, and yet it works so well. Honestly, you're reading the book through the first time, or I recommend listening to the audio format of this book, and you're just wondering, how is this author getting away with this? And it's still being so good. And Matt Dinniman really does not disappoint. The stereotypes of the system AI, which I'd mentioned that appeared to Carl when he first realized the world had become flattened around him, has just the funniest sense of humor and does not care and takes a lot of names. Carl himself, you could view as kind of a no-nonsense guy, a bit of a cynic, but at the same time is able to enjoy what life has to offer, is reacting how any normal person would in his shoes, with a lot of expletives. I gotta mention just the companions that Carl finds himself encountering are unexpected, but they really play well. With his interactions with them, we're able to get a very interesting viewpoint into both parties, specifically his companion that he makes in the dungeon. The character relationships are funny as heck, and you'll see why if you pick this one up. The second pro for this book is pacing, for sure. It's not too slow and it's not too rushed. When it comes to the battles, oftentimes you'll get into LitRPG books and they could run for multiple chapters. That's not what's happening here, but it's also not too short of a battle either. When he gets further on and is facing weaker enemies, now that he's gained a little bit more strength, I appreciate the author just brushing past that and saying something along the lines of, Carl just stepped on this monster. My only con for this series was having to then go by the second book. I just wanted it to keep going and going. So it's not really a con, but at the same time, I've got 5 more Dungeon Crawler Carl books I plan on devouring as quickly as possible. Now, with all that said, that'll end up the summary part for those of you who have not read this series yet. We're going to go ahead and jump on over to the deep dive, where for those of you who have read this series, we're going to be talking about the spoilers, my favorite parts, and really getting into the nitty-gritty of what makes this book fantastic. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Well, let's go ahead and start with the talking cat in the room, specifically Princess Donut. I thought it was such a bold choice for Matt Dinniman to add sentience to this house cat. Oh my goodness, it could have totally not landed, but it 100% does. And it's because he definitely put the work into this cat's personality. Princess Donut is a completely fleshed out character, and she and Carl play extremely well off of each other. You can tell that Princess Donut's intelligence slash charisma is being put to good use, and she definitely adds a more lighthearted element to our sometimes cynical Carl, and that is very well desired. Now we'll go ahead and touch on another element I wanted to mention, and it's the contrast between the AI running the world dungeon and the interstellar syndicate, specifically in this case the mud skippers, who are in partnership with the AI. You can think of it almost as the AI makes short-term decisions and the mud skippers make the long-term plot goals. At least that's how I'm reading it so far, and it appears that they don't always jive with each other, which I find hilarious. When it comes to the AI specifically, I am dumbfounded how Matt Dinniman is just having so much fun writing a robotic voice, making it have a foot fetish here and then giving it different voices here and there to really tie home the stereotypic elements that it views Earth to have, while combining it with the cultural references for the universe as a whole. And when it comes to the Interstellar Syndicate, the Mud Skipper organization, I'm really enjoying kind of the back-hidden plot driving why the dungeon is being rushed. And it's because they are cash-strapped and being run by a not too ideal political party. So with that in mind, the author, Matt Dinniman, is touching on a lot of different heavy themes, but his writing style is really just making a lark out of the entire thing. Which is why in later books, I imagine we'll see that Carl is going to be a thorn in their side, because I imagine he will not be dying as quickly as they want him to. And they've alluded to this many times in this book so far, that no one's ever gotten past the 13th floor. I imagine that Carl is probably going to be the first one to do that. Heck, maybe it might even be Princess Donut, and the organization as a whole is not going to be too happy. One note about the Interstellar Syndicate I think is very interesting is that, yes, it's made up of these companies, but it appears that these companies run the universe. So I get flashbacks from Snow Crash basically when I read this, and that was my favorite part about Snow Crash, was that element where the political parties are all just trying to make a buck at the end of the day, and it appears that the entertainment of the World Dungeon is their main cash flow. So I can understand why they'd want to get their hands on such a large investment. My God, the amount of creatures slash aliens slash beings in the universe is only ticking up when it comes to Carl's follow rate. So we'll go ahead and find out how large this universe is the further we get into the series, but other than that, I've been very impressed with the relationships and the politics involved. Diving a little bit further, I want to talk about the entertainment slash reality show version of this world dungeon. It appears to me that these corporations are limited in really what they can do by the AI, but at the same time, the AI is fairly lenient when it comes to letting them get away with most things. And the fact that not only is this a show, but also that the crawlers can go on other reality shows is fantastic. It's poking fun at the beast that is reality television and kind of making a little bit of a joke saying, you know, even reality TV is scripted. And to some degree, it definitely is. There's plot points that the AI and Syndicate want to hit when it comes to the World Dungeon to really get those view rates up. But at the same time, Carl definitely will probably throw a wrench here and there when it comes to what the plan is for the crawlers in general. To end off the deep dive, I'll go ahead and do a couple predictions for the future. Like I mentioned earlier, I do think that Carl is going to be the first man to get to / survive the level 13, and he's not going to stop there. I think in the beginning of the book, they had mentioned that if someone were to survive all 18 floors of the dungeon, that they would become Emperor of Earth, if I'm remembering that correctly. So I imagine that's probably where our series is going to end. After that, honestly, Matt Dinniman could take this series in completely different directions, and with his writing style, I would have no way of guessing what is coming for the future, and that is very much appreciated for me. I like to be kept on my toes and surprised when I'm reading a series, and I'm sure I will not be disappointed. All in all, I do appreciate everyone's time today. Thank y'all very much. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your week, and be sure to keep reading.